Hello, everybody. This is Dr. David Jockers, and today we're talking about how to supercharge your brain. Imagine you had better memory, you had an overall mood and attitude that was low in anxiety, you were cool, calm, and collective in the moment. You were able to think sharply and quickly and able to produce at an extremely high level. This is the way that we can live our lives on a day-by-day basis. It's not just about having good days and then kind of struggling through the tough, rough, bad days. It's really about making every day an awesome day. And I'm going to go through exactly the strategies, the things that all of us have done that actually damage our brain. I know for myself, I did many things to damage my brain for years. Okay, and I'm also going to go through all the best foods and lifestyle tips and exercises in order to strengthen your brain so you can get the most out of life. So if you don't know me, my name is Dr. David Jockers. I am a doctor of natural medicine, and I travel all around the country speaking at large organizations and churches and all different types of events and online events. And I have a real specialty in energy, metabolism, digestive health, and brain function. And you can see my beautiful wife, Angel, here, and my little boys, David and Joshua. And this is really my home life. And this is what I'm passionate about, is helping people perform well so they can perform amazingly when it comes to business, when it comes to relationships, and really everything in life. And so let's jump into this. When we look at the brain, we know that really all life, our whole life experience comes through our brain. And the nerve system is literally flowing at the speed of light. It's so amazing. It's literally the speed of light going through our body at all times, telling every cell exactly what to do, exactly how many chemicals to secrete, how much nutrition to take out of the blood, how much oxygen to utilize. It's unbelievable. It's really at the speed of light. And really, we're electrical beings. And so we want to take good care of our brain and our nerve system, because that all of our experience, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, everything, our emotions, it's all about the brain and the brain's ability to perceive and sense its environment. So we know that movement equals life. We have to move to live. And when we move, we actually activate something called proprioception, or otherwise known as vitamin P. And so this vitamin P is so powerful because it actually stimulates something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic growth factor. And so it helps to actually grow and stimulate the growth of new neurons. And we want that. We want what's called plasticity changes, where we develop these little gaps between neurons. It's like a tree with 6 branches versus a tree with 28 branches. The tree with 28 branches actually has a lot more connections with the overall environment. It's a lot more flexible and adaptable. And that's really the way that we want our brain. In fact, they did a study on Albert Einstein at Stanford, and what they found, they actually tested his brain, and they thought, well, he must have more neurons than the average individual that has the same brain volume. And what they found was that he had exactly the same amount of neurons, but he had twice as many of these little gaps called synapses. His ability to be flexible with his brain, that is really the key factor in his ability to come up with, obviously, equations like E equals MC squared and theory of relativity and all of these types of great breakthroughs. And so anybody that's doing incredible things, is super creative, that is paving the way, or is somebody that we might consider a Renaissance man, like Leonardo da Vinci, which we'll talk about. These are people that have very adaptable and flexible brains. We'll talk about how we can customize our brain to get it in that same format. And one way is through movement. Types of movements that are absolutely amazing for the brain. One is a cross-crawl exercise. So we know that crawling, when infants are crawling, the actual act of moving their right arm and their left knee at the same time, that sort of cross crawl where they're moving both sides of their body, stimulates brain-derived neurotropic growth factor at a very high level in their brain. And it also stimulates that growth in a part of their brain that actually connects the two hemispheres, left and right hemisphere. It's called the corpus callosum. And it helps their brain become more adaptable and flexible. and helps prevent against one side of the brain becoming overdominant. And when kids are not allowed to crawl properly, when they are they're quick to walk, or they're forced into walking through walkers and things like that, or just restricted the ability to crawl, then they end up with learning disorders. And we'll talk about, a little bit more about why that is. Novel movements, so new movement patterns, balance exercises, doing things that are new and unique. The brain loves novelty. It stimulates a part of the brain called the cerebellum, which is called the small brain, which has to do with posture, balance, and coordination and dexterity. So new movement patterns, doing balance exercises and stability exercises. We know falls put more people in the hospital than anything else. And so working on our balance and stability will help strengthen our core, prevent against falls, but also has a dramatic impact on our brain, strengthening up neural patterns that have to do with firing intrinsic muscles that keep us stable in unsafe and unstable environments. So very important. And then oxygen debt. So oxygen debt, what is that? That means doing exercise that helps our body get into a state of oxygen debt where we are breathing deeply. So doing burst training, surge training, doing high intensity exercise is amazing for stimulating brain-derived neurotropic growth factor, enhancing synaptic development. One of the best things for the brain is burst training, running up a hill, sprinting, weight training, and doing kind of supersets where you might do, a bunch of push-ups, and then you do a bunch of pull-ups or something along those lines where you're breathing deep. That's so powerful for the brain. Music can be absolutely amazing for the brain. Ideally, you're listening to music that you thoroughly enjoy, and ideally music that has really positive lyrics. Studies have been done on music that has negative lyrics, and it actually stimulates a part of the brain called the amygdala and the emotional center. And it takes energy, and it really concentrates more energy in more of our emotional centers rather than a higher level cognitive thought, our frontal lobes. Whereas when we listen to classical music, it really enhances the overall production, develop of healthy neurons in our frontal cortex. And our prefrontal cortex is really what helps us have good social tact, where we know how to respond in social environments. It helps us with tenacity, the ability to stay on task and focused. And it's also very, very important just for our ability, we talked about focus, attention, social, just being really, really good socially, also thinking very, very sharply and planning well. So using music, classical music, positive music like worship music is the best way, one of the best ways to stimulate that prefrontal cortex, which again really helps us to think sharply, helps us to have good social behavior, and helps us to be very focused and productive. So use music wisely. We look at the two sides of the brain. We know that the left brain, and this is not for everybody. In fact, some individuals, although it's rare, have this flipped, but predominantly about 90% of the time, it's the left brain that has to do with more analytical things like accounting and numbers and mathematics and language. Okay, so the Broca's area, which is kind of the part of the brain, typically is on the left side for most people. Now, they say some lefties, oftentimes this is flipped. Okay, most right-handed people, again, which is the predominant people, left brain, again, is logic, analysis. You can see all these different things, linear, mathematics, language, facts, whereas the right brain is creativity, imagination, more holistic thinking, seeing the big picture, visualizing. So it's more nonverbal, it's emotional, it's feelings. So these are the artists, and we all have a kind of an artistic, creative element to us. So we want to balance these two hemispheres. When they're unbalanced, when we have one side that's strong, the other side that's weak, we can end up with a lot of different issues. For example, symptoms of left brain weakness, oftentimes we're thinking more dyslexic type of issues, poor reading, letter recognition, poor spelling skills. Kids with dyslexia are typically very left brain weak, okay? So they can struggle there, whereas right brain weakness is oftentimes more of like an autistic, we think more of an autistic type child, like, you've got savants that, like the movie Rain Man, where the guy was just so absolutely brilliant when it came to numbers, when it came to mathematics, but he was so weak when it came to social behavior. And so that aspect of it, you know, he had poor eye contact, anxiety, all these types of issues, with very, very weak right brain. So we want balance here. That's the key. And there's something called cross hemispherical inhibition. What that means is one side of the brain, when it's being strengthened, will actually send inhibitory signals to the other side of the brain. So if we're using a lot of our left brain, we're doing mathematics and accounting, it's actually inhibiting our creative brain. So that's what we have to understand. When we're doing right brain activities, artistic work, creative work, we're actually inhibiting our left side of our brain. So one side is going to get the blood flow, the nutrients, the brain-derived neurotropic growth factor. The other side's not. And the brain is plastic, and that means that it changes. It actually changes. Old patterns or pathways that have not been used in a while will actually break down and decay. They say either use it or you lose it. It's kind of like muscles. Our brain really is a muscle. We've got to use it in order to maintain it. So that's so important to remember. So we want a balance of these things, getting right and left brain activity. And one way we can do that is through movement. Another way is through what we call neurobics. And neurobics are unique and non-routine activities that have a stimulant effect on the brain. And so things like, for example, brushing our teeth with our non-dominant hand will activate a lot of different areas of the brain. So it can be really, really powerful. Also, you know, actually what I wanted to mention too with the different hemispheres is you can use music to stimulate different hemispheres. For example, music with words, like worship music or some sort of lyrical music is going to be more left brain because it has to do with language. Whereas listening to classical music, Mozart or something like that's going to be more right brain. So if you're somebody that's doing a lot of left brain activity, accounting, things like that, then listening to some classical music can help balance out your brain. You can do it actually while you're doing a left brain activity, can be really helpful. And if you're somebody that's doing a lot of right brain activity, listening to music with lyrics can be really helpful for balancing that out. So that's one way you can use music to help. Going back to neurobics, we talk about doing non-routine activities. Okay, so brushing our teeth using our non-dominant hand or eating with our non-dominant hand. Keeping a chess game going where you just kind of take 5 minutes and you make your next chess move and then you go back to doing whatever it is that you're doing. So, or checkers or something along those lines, or doing a puzzle. A lot of people do that with a puzzle. So it just breaks the pattern of the day and that can be amazing for the brain. Getting around, seeing a lot of colors. Going out in nature, nature itself is so healing for our body, but also being around a lot of colors. So you can do it with food, for example. Going to a farmer's market, you'll smell a lot of different things. You'll see a lot of different colors. You can taste things. Stimulating those different senses can be amazing. Close your eyes and open wide. So try to taste, try to focus on one sense at a time, whether it's your hearing, whether it's your taste, what you're feeling, and not know whatever the object is or the food or whatever it is that you're putting in your mouth or that you're feeling with your hand or that you're listening to. Not being able to see it, but just experiencing it can be powerful for the brain. And introduce novelty, doing different things, take a different walk, take a different path than you normally do. And that novelty is amazing for the brain as well. Okay, one exercise that research has shown actually just amazing results with is something called superbrain yoga. Superbrain yoga, and I have an article on my website on exactly how to do superbrain yoga. I also have a video on it as well on my YouTube station. And superbrain yoga is actually an incredible exercise that it's not really yoga. It's actually just exercise with a certain hand position. We take our left hand, particularly our left thumb and forefinger, and we grab our earlobe on our opposite side. So left hand grabs the right earlobe and right hand grabs the left earlobe. And we've got left arm over right arm. And we do a squat exercise with a deep breath. Squats are one of the best exercises for boosting up something called GLUT4, which is a receptor throughout our body, muscles and the brain, to help grab sugar out of the bloodstream and bring it into the cells. And also helps to activate better blood flow into the brain and boosts up human growth hormone production, which is great for BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic growth factor. So squats are amazing. Deep breathing is incredible for the brain because the brain depends on the oxygen. And then the actual activity of having our left hand grabbing our right earlobe and our right hand grabbing our left earlobe helps to stimulate the corpus callosum, which connects the hemispheres. So we get a biohemispheric activation that's absolutely amazing for the body. And the earlobe itself has reflexology points, little acupressure points that correlate with major organs in our body, help to improve circulation. So just doing that. And so there's actually research that's been done. They took kids, these are 6th grade old kids, middle-aged school kids that were ADHD and really kind of more juvenile delinquent kids. And 21 of them, and they had them do this exercise a minimum of twice a week for 6 weeks. And what they found was that after 6 weeks, the kids improved their academic performance by 21%. 21%, absolutely amazing. I mean, think about that. That's the difference between a C student and an A student, or between, a student that averages a 60 on a score and they average 81. I mean, that's unbelievable performance. And then also the teacher said that the kids showed greater level of generosity, kindness, they had less anxiety, they seemed to be more calm, just amazing benefits. And now they were only doing it a minimum of twice a week. So this is a great exercise to do. Again, you could find it on my website. It's just Super Brain Yoga. Okay, are you inflaming your brain? Let's talk about things that damage the brain. Tap water. Tap water has chlorine, fluoride, disinfectant byproducts, heavy metals. It can be very, very toxic, so it's important that we get filtered water. Bad fats can be things like corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil, peanut oil. We want to stay away from these vegetable oils. They're extremely destructive to the body, very inflammatory, and they damage the brain. Excitotoxins, that's things like MSG, aspartame, things like that, very, very bad. Aspartame potassium is another one. These things are really, really bad for the brain. They cause cytotoxic activity, meaning they excite the brain cells to death. Very bad stuff. Heavy metals. So we want to stay away from things like vaccines, which have aluminum or mercury in them, depending on what adjuvant they use. So they take the mercury out, they add in aluminum. So it's really bad stuff. On top of that, the amalgams are bad, so amalgam fillings, which are mercury fillings that are in there. We want to stay away from that. A lot of people have lead from the use of lead paints. So heavy metals, stay away from the exposure to those. Processed foods have a lot of heavy metals. Gluten products. Gluten, if you have some level of sensitivity to gluten, which it's expected that 81% of the population does, so that's 4 out of 5, then gluten is going to lead to leaky gut, and leaky gut equals leaky brain. So it damages the gut and the brain. And then the number 2 complaint that people have when they have gluten sensitivity is brain fog and poor memory, anxiety, different issues like that. They're all brain related. The number 1, of course, is digestive related. Number 2 is brain related. So definitely stay off of gluten. Soy products. We know soy is high in anti-nutrients, particularly one called a tyrosine kinase inhibitor. Tyrosine kinase is a major enzyme in our temporal lobe of the brain. And when we're deficient in that, or when we have anti-nutrients blocking that, we're not going to be able to form memory well. In fact, high soy consumption is linked with early dementia. So stay away from soy. Blood sugar imbalances. The brain it's so important to keep blood sugar stable in the brain. And when we don't, we end up opening up the blood-brain barrier, allowing toxins to get in there, inflammatory aspects. We trigger inflammation, which literally causes fire in the brain. So keeping our blood sugar stable with a healthy diet is so important. We're going to talk about the diet. Alcohol and keeping caffeine under control. Caffeine can be amazing, but it can also cause adrenal fatigue and blood sugar imbalances. So we definitely want to be careful with that. Artificial lighting. They say, the light, in a sense, light to the body is, like what food is, right? Light to our eyes and to our senses. We've got to make sure that we are consuming a good light on a regular basis. So I recommend getting out good natural sun exposure, using daylight bulbs or full spectrum lighting in your home and offices. So important. Sleep deprivation. We want to make sure we're sleeping well. So if we're not, we're staying up late at night, we are waking up early, if we're not getting enough sleep, or we have the wrong sleeping patterns and wrong sleeping hours, that's going to cause serious problems. I recommend being in bed early, 9, 10 p.m. ideally. And trying to get 8, sometimes 9 hours of sleep can be really, really important. Okay, so sedentary living. So movement, we talked about how important movement is for the brain. So if we are just sitting all day, that they say sitting to the spine or sitting to the spine is what sitting to the brain is what sugar is to the teeth. So sitting actually deactivates firing in the brain and will cause atrophy in different areas of the brain. So definitely want to avoid that. Bad posture and subluxation. So we want to make sure that we're sitting upright, we're breathing well, that we don't have blockage and interference in our spine. When our spine is able to move well, we stimulate proprioceptive input into the brain, which stimulates brain-derived neurotrophic growth factors. So key. Let's talk about some of the best foods for the brain. Well, we talk about different neurotransmitters and how to boost them. One is dopamine. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter involved with pleasure, as well as mental drive and performance. We see dopamine is really key on our frontal lobe. We talked about the frontal lobe as very important for social tact, focus, cognitive acceleration. Dopamine is one of the major drivers there. So what are some foods that help to boost it? Raw chocolate is rich in PEAs and phenylalanine, which help to boost up dopamine. Blueberries, rich in anthocyanins. Okay, very good for protecting the brain, helping stimulate dopamine. Super seeds, we're going to talk about things like pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, all real good for the brain. Almonds, sea vegetable, okay, bitter herbs. So bitter herbs, we're thinking about things like parsley, cilantro, milk thistle, mint is a bitter herb, dandelion. These are all great bitter herbs. Bitter is good for the liver. It's also good for drive and focus. Wild-caught salmon, which is really probably one of the all-around best foods for the brain because of the omega-3 fats, the astaxanthin. It's just awesome for the brain and the body. So we want to get those foods into our body on a regular basis. How about serotonin? Here's some great ones for serotonin. We've got things like berries. You see blueberries, blackberries, walnuts. I mean, look at a walnut. It looks like a brain. So of course, it's probably good for the brain. God gives us clues there. Walnuts are great. Chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, avocado, right? So those good super seeds. Raw chocolate again, olive oil, all really good. Turmeric, all great. You know, bananas are on there and they're good for serotonin. However, they also have a lot of sugar, so I'm not a huge fan of doing bananas. Choline. Choline is a key for healthy acetylcholine function. You can see this study, Journal of Neurophysiology, April 2004. They said, according to the study, the important nutrient choline supercharged the brain activity. So, of course, this presentation is called Supercharge Your Brain. So we got to talk about supercharging brain activity. And so it resulted in the creation of larger cells that were quicker at firing electrical signals that release memory-forming chemicals in the hippocampus, which is where we store our memory in the temporal lobe. So what are some of the best food sources of choline? Grass-fed beef liver is number one. A lot of people don't like the taste of that because it does taste awkward. I've developed a taste for it, but I wouldn't say it's great. Egg yolk can be awesome. Pasture-raised egg yolk, wild-caught salmon, chicken and turkey, broccoli, cauliflower, chia, flax seeds, and rosemary. That's something I like to munch on regularly. Or rosemary. Many people, especially in North America, I mean, it grows really wild out here. You can plant it in your garden. You can just get huge bushels of rosemary and just munch on those. Great for freshening your breath and also great for stimulating acetylcholine function in your brain. Okay, GABA, which is really good for relaxing. So you think about sleeping well or reducing anxiety and stress. What are some great herbs for that? Passion flower, chamomile, lemon peel, lemongrass, lavender, valerian is another one. Good foods are cabbage, bone broth, avocado. So doing something like nighty-night tea can be really, really good because, again, the passion flower and chamomile that's in there. And both of those are great for detoxifying bad estrogens, boosting up GABA, helping us to just really be able to relax well. Okay, so doing different teas with some of these herbs or using essential oils can be really good for improving GABA levels. Glutathione. Glutathione is our body's master antioxidant. It really helps to protect against inflammation in the brain and really throughout the whole body. When we're deficient in glutathione because of poor diet, pollution, drugs, radiation, stress, injury, trauma, or burns, aging, and infection, you guys can see that whole list there, then we're going to end up with increased amount of oxidative stress and toxicity, which will deplete our glutathione levels, which will accelerate the aging process and cause chronic disease. So you can see some of the best foods for boosting glutathione, things like cabbage, turmeric, free-range eggs, avocados, fermented foods, fermented cabbage. So stuff like that can be really, really good for boosting up glutathione levels. We have a supplement called Brain Supercharge that I'll use that really is a mitochondrial support system. It's got things like coenzyme Q10, acetyl L-carnitine, glutathione boosting agents like alpha lipoic acid and N-acetylcysteine, and something called phosphatidylserine, which is really key for neurotransmitter production. This is an amazing supplement for brain, right? Supporting brain health, neurotransmitters, glutathione levels. So this thing can really help to supercharge the brain. That's why it's called Brain Supercharge as a supplement. How about protein shakes? I'm a huge fan of doing shakes, especially earlier in the day. You want to get a lot of your calories, especially earlier in the day, from liquid nutrition. It's really easy on your digestive system to digest. You can get a lot of great nutrients in there, and using good fats. So things like coconut oil, coconut butter, coconut milk, avocados. You can see my supercharged chocolate pudding there at the bottom, one of my favorite recipes. My gut healing blueberry shake right there at the top left. My raspberry chocolate cream using coconut cream there on the bottom left. And the blueberry chia protein shake there at the top right with chia seeds, which are a great source of fiber, as well as small chain omega-3 fats. I mean, it's just, these are amazing recipes that are satiating. They taste awesome, loaded with antioxidants. We talked about the benefits of raw chocolate, berries, how good berries are. Coconut is amazing for the brain, using good protein powders. One of my favorites is bone broth protein. Bone broth protein is naturally very rich in glycine, which helps with the production of GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, to calm the brain. Also good for liver detoxification, that glycine, and really good for gut health. A lot of L-glutamine in there, good for gut health, proline, to help stabilize and heal leaky gut. And we know that the health of our gut is going to play a big role with the health of our brain. So the more we're able to support our gut with doing shakes and taking stress off the digestive system so it doesn't have to break down solid foods, it's consuming pre-digested foods, and then getting nutrients like what bone broth has to offer into the body is incredible for helping supercharge your brain. So bone broth protein, magnesium. Magnesium is one of the best supplements you can be consuming, and really consuming magnesium-rich foods as well for healthy brain function. We know that magnesium is crucial for over 300 functions in your body. And really our body uses magnesium much like an automobile or car or truck will use oil. And so we're constantly going through it. Every time we're under stress, we're using up magnesium. Every time we consume food, we actually use magnesium to try to keep the blood sugar stable and balanced. I mean, really, it's so important for circulation, for healthy blood pressure, for energy within every cell of the body. We're constantly going through magnesium. We're going to cycle through times. Even if we're supplementing with magnesium, we're going to be cycling through whether we are sufficient, have enough magnesium, and deficiency. So it's very important that we're addressing this. It's one of the key supplements I would recommend everybody consume, at least in a small amount every day. Very important for really good deep sleep, for joints and ligaments, flexibility overall, and strength and support in our joints, bone density, for good bone density. Very important to have magnesium. If you're under pain, you definitely want to address magnesium levels. You feel stiff and tight. If you feel like you've got anxiety, definitely address magnesium. So some of the best foods are going to be things like green leafy vegetables, Swiss chard, spinach, grass-fed dairy. I'm a huge fan of grass-fed butter, which is a rich source of magnesium. Avocados are great. So you can see a lot of these things we're repeating. Pumpkin seeds, we talked about that with serotonin. We talked about it with dopamine. Well, also it's rich in magnesium. Good healthy salts. Okay, I like pig salts, like Himalayan sea salt. Can be rich source of minerals. Good nuts. We talked about the walnuts. Pecans are a good one. These things look like a brain, right? So again, rich in nutrients necessary for the brain. Dark chocolate. Chocolate's one of the best sources of magnesium. Just want to make sure you don't get it with the sugar, because sugar depletes magnesium. So avoid the sugar, get the chocolate. Just a good high quality chocolate without sugar. Coffee, actually, believe it or not, can be a good source of magnesium. Although again, drinking too much caffeine can also reduce your ability to utilize magnesium. Sea vegetables, so seaweed, which can be dulse, nori, wakame, different things like that can all be great. I like C Snacks. It's you can find that on Amazon.com. C Snacks, SNAX. C, so C like being in the sea, and then snacks. Sprouts, broccoli sprouts, kale sprouts, radish sprouts. These things are awesome. They're one of the best foods, most nutrient dense things you can put in your body, enzymatically alive. So get the sprouts, and then wild caught fish, so like sockeye salmon, awesome stuff. Wild caught sockeye salmon, sardines. So things low on the food chain, and then also wild caught sockeye salmon, really, really, really good source of magnesium. And then, I would definitely recommend considering this supplement right here. It's called Brain Calm Magnesium. And it's a type of magnesium called magnesium L-threonate, which crosses the blood-brain barrier better than any other form of magnesium. And clinical research has shown that it can dramatically impact our brain's ability to produce synapses. We talked about that with Einstein's brain, his ability to kind of branch out, create these new branches and connections in the brain. This supplement right here, I mean, my goodness, I feel like if I could get everybody in the world on a supplement like this, our whole world would be so much better. We'd have less anxiety, less stress, less pain. We would be able to perform better in our daily life and our daily activity. We'd have a better mood. We'd be sleeping better. We'd have better relationships, and we would just be able to function at a higher level. It also tastes good. It's like a little bit of like a fruit punch flavor. I actually have it right here with me. And I'll drink a scoop in water 2 to 3 times a day, right? But you might just start with 1 scoop in water daily. If you're under a lot of stress, you're going to notice that you just feel so good drinking this that you're going to want to use a lot of it because it's going to help your brain fire and function so much better. So Brain Calm Magnesium, absolutely amazing, amazing product. You can find that on drjockers.com. Finally, let's talk about posture and breathing. We know we got to breathe. Oxygen is so critical for the brain, and we know that the average person is doing 12 to 18 breaths, these short, shallow breaths on a daily basis, whereas optimal breathing is really slowing that process down. 6 breaths per minute. 6 breaths per minute is really kind of like this. It's like a 4-second inhalation, 2-second pause, 4-second exhalation. It's very cool, calm, collective breathing, and it teaches our body that we're in a safe place. Obviously, if we're under danger, we're going to have short, shallow breathing. Or if we're exercising at a high intensity, we're going to be breathing, very short, very strong, very rapidly. And that's key because we need the oxygen, and we're in a state of oxygen debt in those particular times. But when we're sitting there at our computer or in our car, what we want to do is make sure that we are slowing that breathing process down and teaching our body, hey, we're in a safe place. And if the body feels like we're in a safe place, it's going to be able to rest, heal, digest, and regenerate. And that's what we want. A predominant amount of the time throughout the day, we want to be in a state where we're healing and regenerating, not in a state where we're fighting and flighting. Okay, fight and flight for short periods of time, rest and heal the vast majority of the time. Breathing will help you with that process. So make sure you're really focusing on good, healthy, long, deep breaths. So critical. And if you want to go deeper, I hope you're really getting a lot out of this presentation. But if you want to go deeper and learn all of my best strategies, how to utilize neurobics, how to strengthen different regions of your brain, how to know what your greatest level of intelligence. We go through the theory of multiple intelligences in this program. I go through how to strengthen each neurotransmitter with unique exercises and activities and foods and supplements. We have a meal plan, a recipe guide with over 55 incredible recipes to help strengthen your brain. We've got video recipe instructions and videos on a number of different health topics associated with brain health. Okay, if you want access to that, I have this program on drjockers.com. It is my Super Brain program, and you can just put the Brain 30 in at checkout. And this is really what this guide has. It talks about, really the best foods for your brain. You actually have a quick start nutrition guide. There's a whole manual that goes through really all the best strategies for improving your brain. Recipe book, meal plan. We've got the Super Brain Yoga guide, which goes through exactly how to utilize Super Brain Yoga to strengthen your brain. We have a Super Brain training guide that goes through each neurotransmitter, like GABA, like serotonin, like dopamine, acetylcholine, and exactly things to do to strengthen those neurotransmitters. So really, really great value there. We have a neurotransmitter questionnaire, so you can actually understand which neurotransmitter is weak, and then exercises and activities to do, again, to strengthen neurotransmitters. We've got a e-guide here on 12 strategies to beat ADHD naturally, and then also an adrenal health guide, because I see a lot of people with poor functioning adrenals, okay, and brain function, brain problems. So we know that in the brain, there's an area called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis. And so we need to get that under control to have healthy brain. And so we have a whole guide on that as well. And again, you know, this program literally took me, I mean, it's like spending 30 hours of time. It took me probably 150 hours to produce. And it's like me spending 30 hours doing videos and doing, just sitting down and talking to you about all these different activities, showing you foods and recipes, and being right there at your side for 30 hours, okay, which normally would cost you about $15,000. But because I've been able to put it in an online suite, the cool thing about that is you can access it at any time. So whatever time works best for you. And because it's in a format like that, I'm able to help a lot of people and really cut down the overall cost. So we've gotten that cost down to $97. And because you have listened to this presentation, we're actually going to give you a special coupon code. It's called BRAIN30. You'll put it in at checkout. It will drop your price down to $67. So if you want to take your brain to the next level, improve your mood, your memory, and your mindset, then I would highly recommend enrolling now. And it would be an honor and a privilege to have you as part of our Super Brain program. God bless you guys, and we will definitely see you on a future online training. Bye-bye.